Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's make a Hemostat Mandala, and this one is actually going to be an Otten Alien. If you've never heard of an Otten Alien, it's a tie-dye fold that Patricia Otten came up with, and you can usually find her and some of her designs out on a Facebook group called The Process of Ice Dyeing. I'm going to start by centering the shirt. And this process is going to go pretty fast, but down below this video in the description is a link to another video which shows how to center a shirt. Essentially what I'm doing is getting both sides of the front of the shirt, or both halves of the front of the shirt, right up next to each other, and the same thing for the back. That way, whenever I apply the dye to the shirt, both sides of the front should look more symmetrical, and the same thing with the back. Having a shirt centered helps to eliminate or lessen the effect of maybe having one half of the front of the shirt darker than the other or one half lighter than the other. Now that the shirt is centered, the next thing I'm going to do is take a washable marker and place a mark where I'd like for the center of my mandala to be. I'm going to fold this shirt like I would just a regular mandala. I'm going to place a straight edge on the line that I just drew, and I'm going to fold the hem of the shirt up to fold the shirt in half. Then I'm going to remove the straight edge, grab one corner of the hem of the shirt, and fold it back to that main seam. Now I'm going to pinch the fold that I just made and the fabric underneath it and lift the shirt up off the table to fold that portion in half. I'm going to make one additional fold on each side. Okay, so this is a basic mandala fold. From here you can tie it however you want to, but I'm going to choose to use some hemostats. The hemostats that I'm going to use on this shirt are curved hemostats, and the majority of mine are 10 and 12 inch. I have a few 8 inch that I use, but I prefer the larger ones. I've also coated the ends of my hemostats or the teeth of my hemostats with heat shrink tubing. I purchased mine from either Lowe's or Home Depot, cut it to length, place it over each side of the teeth, and then use a heat gun to shrink it to fit. This helps for the hemostats to get a tighter grip on the shirt, and it also helps keep the hemostat teeth from damaging the fabric. Right now, all I'm doing is sorting my hemostats into different sizes. I'm going to use them in pairs, and so I'm sorting pairs of 10-inch hemostats and pairs of 12-inch hemostats. Right at the very end of the shirt, I'm going to place one hemostat diagonally. Then I'm going to start by placing some 10-inch hemostats on my shirt with the curved part facing each other. I'm clamping them down as tightly as I can get them. And you need to watch because when you clamp these down, because they're under so much pressure, they can pop off. And if they do pop, they will sometimes fly really far, and so you need to make sure you don't get hurt if they happen to pop off. I had a fellow tie-dyer suggest placing some rubber bands around the handles of the hemostats to keep them from popping off, and that is a great suggestion. I didn't do that on this shirt, but I made another hemostat mandala the same day that I made this one, and I did add the rubber bands to those hemostats, and it worked great. Once I've used all of the 10-inch hemostats, I'm going to go ahead and switch over and start using my 12-inch hemostats. Sometimes if your fabric is too thick, you may have to switch over and use nothing but 12-inch hemostats. If you're seeing this design and would like to invest in some hemostats, they come in a variety of different designs and shapes, and they make them for all different purposes. I've bought mine at several different places. I've bought them from eBay, I've purchased some from Amazon, and a few other places. The biggest suggestion that I can give you is buy larger hemostats and make sure they're hemostats that are nice and sturdy. You don't want the really small ones unless you're doing very thin fabric. I have some that are smaller than 8 inch, and I've actually just kind of put them in a drawer and never used them. You also want to make sure that they're nice and sturdy so that they don't pop or break when you put them on the shirt and have them under that much tension. As well as you would really like to have hemostats that have long teeth areas. You know, some hemostats are really long, but they have a very short area that clamps, and you want a longer clamping area. I have a link down below in the description for this video for some off of Amazon. That'll kind of give you an idea of what you need to look for. Once I have the shirt with all the hemostats on it, I'm going to place it on top of a rack and I'm going to allow it to dry out completely. I get better color saturation on a thick fold like this if it's completely dry when I start to apply the dye. If you'd like some more information on that topic, I have a link down below this video to my website, and I have a blog out on my website with a blog post that addresses that topic in more depth. Because my shirt is totally dry, I'm going to begin by spraying a little bit of soda ash solution on the very top. That's going to help the dye stick to the top of the shirt a little bit better. Then I'm going to use my silicone cake molds and make myself an ice barrier. I'm going to wind the silicone cake molds around the hemostats that I have on the shirt and hold those silicone cake molds together with some wooden clothespins. I have a link down below in the description for this video for the silicone cake molds which I purchased from Amazon. Okay, so I finally got an ice barrier around the shirt, so let's start applying the dye. I'm going to apply the dye to each of the hemostat sections, and I'm going to apply the dye in the order that I'm getting ready to give you. I'm starting with Margarita from Dye Spin right at the very end. Then the next section I'm going to use Bright Green from Grateful Dyes. Then Flying Forest from Happy Cat Tie Dye. Aster from Pro Chemical, Orchid from Dharma, Royal Purple from Dye Spin, Scottish Heather from Dye Spin, Pure Magenta from Dye Spin, and Grecian Rose from Pro Chemical and Dye. I'm adding quite a bit of dye to each one of the sections. This is a little bit larger shirt, and of course it's pretty thick, so if I have enough dye that I've added to each one of the sections, once my first layer of ice melts, if it hasn't pushed the dye through, I can go ahead and add some more ice and continue adding ice until I get good color saturation throughout the shirt and I've got a lot of dye showing through onto the back side. By the way, I'm using a lot of colors on this shirt, so if you happen to miss any of the colors that I'm using, you can go down below and I have them listed in the description for this video, along with links to where I purchased them. The areas that remain white, if you look at it, it kind of looks like a zigzag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place one color on each portion of that zigzag area. So right now I'm placing Intense Blue on the shirt, which is a Pro Chemical color. And then the other portion of that zigzag, I'm going to use Bahama Blue from Dharma. The remaining colors in the order that I'm using them are Cornflower Blue from Dharma, Deep Ocean from Dye Spin, Dragon Fruit from Dharma, Raspberry Mist from Happy Cat Tie Dye, Hot Hibiscus from Dharma, Coral Pink from Dharma, Strawberry Frappe from Dharma, and Watermelon from Dharma. There are a few of these colors, like the Cornflower Blue and the Strawberry Frappe, which are special order colors from Dharma. You probably won't be able to get those anymore from them unless you buy them in large quantities. But I also have put a link down below for where you can purchase these from a Facebook group called Tie-Dye Supplies Marketplace. Kathy Grieger sells them in smaller quantities out there, and you can contact her. She's usually pretty good to have most colors. If you'll notice when I'm doing that very end portion, that area is pretty large, so I'm splitting that between the Strawberry Frappe and the Watermelon. Now I'm going to place an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of all the dye and add on some ice. For this shirt, because it is an unusual shape, and I'm going to go ahead and incline this shirt, So I'm going to use some really large ice cubes, which I make using some silicone ice cube trays, which I purchased off of Amazon. For me, it's a little bit easier for this initial time of putting ice on the shirt to use these larger cubes. Here again, feel free to do whatever works for you. Once I have the ice on top, then I'm going to go ahead and put one end of this metal rack down in the bottom of this container. That's going to place the shirt at an incline. I let the first layer of ice melt. I came back and added another layer of ice, and I used the big cubes again for that part. I still have a couple little areas that have some undissolved dye, so I put just a couple more ice cubes on there, and then allowed the shirt to process for about 48 hours after all the ice melted. Okay, so to rinse the shirt, I took it to my utility sink and I started rinsing in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Once I rinsed in cold for a little bit, I went ahead and took the hemostats off the shirt and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. Instead of rinsing for a really long time, I went ahead and put some really hot water in my utility sink, a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent, and allowed the shirt to soak. The Blue Dawn dish detergent is pH neutral, so if there happens to be any soda ash remaining in the shirt, it's going to help to neutralize that so that any of the excess dye that is soaked out of the shirt won't rebond onto the shirt someplace different. When the water cooled off, I changed it out again and repeated that process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I put the shirt along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine and I washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I've washed, dried, and ironed the shirt. And let's see what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this one is gorgeous. I love all the bright colors, and that green in the middle just really pops. I love the dye movement too up in the top portion of the shirt where the green just kind of runs and zigzags through the other colors. I think that looks really cool. I think I got really good color saturation with this shirt too. Both sides of the front look the same, and the front and the back pretty much look the same too. So one side is not oversaturated with the other side a little lighter. If you remember, I added quite a bit of ice to this one, and I was kind of expecting to have to do that because this is a ring spun cotton shirt, but it's a size 4X. So it's got quite a bit of thickness in the fabric, and I wanted to make sure I did get good color saturation and not have big chunks of white left in the shirt. So I'm super happy with this shirt. I think it's really pretty. But what do you guys think about it? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed watching the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.